What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I want to talk about what's going on with Tesla stock and break down some very important developments on the chart. I'm also going to talk about some new things that are going on when it comes to the share price and what you should be watching for as time goes on, as some big news just came out. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and this offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, now looking at Tesla in the market, let me just talk about some very important things. Tesla has been selling off like crazy. If I actually go back on the charts and we zoom all the way out like this, ever since the year started, Tesla's just been selling off for the most part. If you go back to the very end of 2023, Tesla was at 265 a share on December 28th, during almost one of the last trading days of the year, and it started to sell off a bit. It was still in the 250s. It was still around 250 even on January 2nd. And since then, we saw this thing drop like crazy from 250 all the way down to about 236 a share just a couple of days ago. And now today we're at 218 a share. So Tesla's looking very weak, big downtrend. The question is, what's going on with Tesla? What's with all this bad news? And what do I see for the share price in the future? I want to talk about that very, very carefully. So the answer is there's a lot of bad news coming out. That's the first thing you have to remember about Tesla. So what's all the bad news? First off, there was news about Hertz basically selling a bunch of Teslas and essentially just buying some gas-powered cars instead with some of the proceeds. That news came out, which was pretty negative. This all started with Tesla's deliveries. Tesla did relatively well with the deliveries, but it didn't necessarily smash expectations to a massive extent. And generally, when that happens, we do tend to see Tesla downtrend for a bit. That's what historically happens. So unfortunately, that's why Tesla ended up downtrending a bit. So with that happening, that was a little bit negative. The response was not the best. And then on top of this, I just want to mention that there was a lot of bad news that came out on top of that, right? We had the Hertz news, the news about Elon Musk and the substances. I mean, it was just crazy, right? The Tesla board had to get involved alongside the SpaceX boards just to have discussions about the repercussions for Musk. It was just crazy stuff, guys. Very, very crazy stuff. And then two, or I would say three more negative headlines came out. Tesla announced that it had to be raising basically the salaries of a lot of their production workers. Now, is that good in a way? Yes, it's good for those workers. I want the best for them, right? I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for people that work on those lines. It's very difficult, but at the same time, from a business standpoint, you have to look at that from a financial standpoint just to see how they're doing. And then we had more negative news that came out. Basically, there's the big stoppage that's going on in Berlin. Tesla is going to be halting their Gigafactory for about 2 weeks from January 29th until February 11th, according to reports. That's because of things going on the Red Sea. With the Red Sea, there's like a lot of violence, and as a result, there's a lot of delays. This is leading to some supply chain disruptions, which caused Tesla to do so. Others may argue that it's also because of demand, but it all depends, right? At this point, it doesn't really matter. Excuse me, it doesn't matter what the reason is. Ultimately, they have to shut down the Gigafactory. And that's bad news, no matter what kind of conspiracies people come up with. It doesn't matter. On top of that, I want to call out something else that's very negative: more price cuts in China. We went over this news earlier, but this is pretty bad news. So the Model 3 sedan and the Model Y SUV have price cuts. The Model 3 is seeing a 5.9% cut to about $34,000, and the Model Y getting a 2.8% cuts to about $36,000. So that's kind of negative. Price cuts coming out, demand issues in China, fear about demand overall, even in the US, recessionary fears, which are going to eventually emerge more in the markets, in my opinion, soon. And we also have all this negative news coming out. It's all bad for Tesla. Nothing is good about this. Nothing is helpful for it, and it's just continuing to sell off. So, what am I watching for on Tesla? It's very simple, guys. Basically, I'm going on. Well, I first want to note that I'm well aware of what like people in the comments are saying about this. Let me just show you. People are looking at the daily chart, for example, and they're looking at this potential head and shoulders right here. So this, to them, it looks like a giant head and shoulders on Tesla that's kind of like forming. Let me actually use TradingView just to make this a little bit bigger, just for a second. So you could argue that on the daily time frame, we've got this, head and shoulders like structure. a slanted head and shoulders, right? That's completely fine. That is okay. Tesla could continue to develop and accumulate. If it does start selling off, there could be lower levels coming, but I just see that as nothing more than just an opportunity. I would love to see Tesla. If it does sell off, it's great. I would love to be buying Tesla at these low levels. So I'm completely fine with that. I don't really mind that happening. But here's the thing about it. I'm not going to worry about 180, 150ish or anything like that until we lose 200. That's like the way I trade and the way I view things. And as a person that buys Tesla, I just dollar cost average. That's like the best strategy because you never know where the bottom is going to be. But here's the thing about Tesla. We're approaching some critical support. Let me show you where the support is. Basically, when you look at Tesla on the weekly, you're going to be looking at, give me 1 second, guys, our 200 moving average. Okay. Zooming all the way in on the weekly time frame, the 200 moving average is currently around 217.5. If we lose this, if we end up losing 217.5, we close below it. The weekly is officially going to turn even weaker. It's already pretty weak looking, looks very bearish, the weekly candle. But basically, our next target is going to be 200. Tesla will sink towards 200 if that ends up being the case, or it could get very close to it. And I would have to see the weekly 200 EMA break for me to turn even more bearish after that. Because the last time we touched it, back in November, we bounced off of it. So the point I'm trying to make is don't turn extremely bearish until we start losing critical supports. We have 217.5 coming next. If we lose that, there's going to be a risk of us getting closer to 200, right? Plain and simple. If we lose 200, the weekly 200 EMA, then that's it. We can just sink a lot more. But I'm not worried about 150 quite yet. We haven't even lost the 200 EMA yet on the weekly time frame. We haven't even broken below 200. So it doesn't make sense for all these people to go crazy. That's the way I see it. And then let's just say Tesla does sell off. Let's just say there's more bad news. You know, all this bad news comes out, all this FUD, the recession is coming. One thing that does concern me is that like the whole market might start to sell off soon. Maybe not as soon as this week. It could push a little bit more since SPY is still holding up. But going into like as we approach March, the market could see a correction. And if it does get that correction phase, right? Hypothetically, if that were to happen, as SPY has a lot of unfilled gaps still left, especially on the daily charts, there's also going to be recessionary fears. The Fed may try to scare some people because of the fact that we got a little bit hot of a CPI report not too long ago, and we have a triple bearish divergence developing on SPY. But if we do end up selling off towards this gap area, we have a big unfilled gap around 440. Uh, Close to the 440s, there's a big unfilled gap. Actually, it gets closer to like the 430s. We also have a gaps down in the 450s. So it is possible for there to be another correction, right? If that happens, that's going to slow Tesla down too. That's the thing people have to remember. Tesla's going through hardships with demand issues. There's a lot of fear about their margins and such. So there is a risk of downside. That's my honest truth with you all. But I'm not going to turn into the biggest perma bear just instantly. I'm going to be watching our next level. I find that to be more efficient than just crying for like 100 a share, $80 a share. No, we're not even below 200 yet. So let's just wait and see. But here's my point in making this video. Do not fear, do not fret, do not panic, do not be scared. Okay? Warren Buffett oftentimes says, be greedy when others are fearful. And the same thing vice versa. When people are panicking, people are saying Tesla's going to crash, it's the end of the world for the company. That's when I start buying. That's when I turn greedy because I know for a fact the stock is still bullish. When you zoom out all the way out of the chart, maybe you could interpret a head and shoulders here. Maybe it's going to sell off to 200. Maybe it goes down to 150. It doesn't matter to me. I will continue to dollar cost average. Tesla could still be in a massive uptrend with this giant inverse head and shoulders right here, technically. Even if it does sell off a little bit more, it could still be in an inverse head and shoulders, even if it sells off a bit more. Even if it comes back down to 150, it still has a giant inverse head and shoulders. Don't forget AI, autonomous driving technology. Don't forget about Tesla's developments. It is going to come back. I have no doubts in my mind. I also believe it's going to be above all-time highs next year. I really believe that, guys. So I just see nothing but an opportunity. Huge opportunity on Tesla. I think Tesla leaps are going to be primed for next year. End of this year to next year, end of this year to early next year. Let me just correct myself. It's going to run like crazy. So could we correct for a few months? Yes. Could we see some downside for a month or two? Sure. Whatever happens, however low it goes, it's okay. because the long term is bright. The end of the year will be strong for the markets and Tesla, in my opinion, if the market prices in a recession very quickly. And I still believe Tesla has so much potential. I could talk for hours about it. Don't forget about their robo taxi technology. Don't forget about the FSD, their Dojo supercomputer. Don't forget about their vehicles, their deliveries to come. For the short term, maybe there's some demand issues. Maybe they're not going to get the best amounts of sales. Maybe it happens. That's okay. Let them try to bring Tesla down, because institutions are just tricking you into thinking that Tesla's a bad company. They're tricking you because they're going to be buying Tesla. They're going to be the first ones to buy it the moment it drops to those low levels. It's all part of their game. They're the ones that dictate it. They're going to push it down, push it up. They control the price. It's not just everyday retail investors. So keep that in mind. When it drops, be greedy. That's the time to be greedy. Not financial advice, it's just my opinion. And a big opportunity is coming, in my opinion. Buying Tesla at 200, anywhere below 200, is a steal, in my opinion, at least for the long term. Could it drop more? Yes, but I'm going to be watching the 200 moving average on the weekly. And if that fails us, then we have the 200 EMA coming next towards 200. So watch supports. Could Tesla drop more? Yes, it can. But I'm going to be watching our targets. I'm going to be watching our levels and just see how things end up going. All right. So hopefully this video was inspiring. Hopefully you guys are not going to panic if you start to see Tesla sell off a bit. I could see it selling off more as I broke down some important levels, right? But just to be safe, don't forget to just keep your composure, not really worry about what anyone else tries to say. Last couple of things about Tesla. If we were to just like draw out a Fibonacci retracement chart like this, if we start from this bottom down here at this 100 area, very close to this, you could see some important levels on Tesla. The 0.618 is around 180, or very, very close to that, a little bit below that. We also have our 0.382 retracement area, which has been tested. The next level to basically watch for would be very close to that if we end up losing. So the 0.5 retracement happens to be at almost 200. It also aligns with the 200 EMA. So these are some other levels, but if it retraces, completely fine with me. I'll be buying the dips without any doubt. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day. Hopefully this video was inspiring and helpful. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.